Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Here we are at the Pivotal Podspective. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Elliot Brown, with, of course, my wonderful co-host,
Adrian Darbantu, and hello to everyone.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing almost good. A bit tired today. I just had my lunch now before the show, but it's actually night. But I'm doing very well. What about you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Yeah, I had a good day. It's been a busy day. It's been an eclectic day. Let's say that. There's been all sorts of things going on.
Creative day.
Say again?
A creative one.
It's been creative, definitely. And talking about creative, our guest extraordinaire this evening is definitely a creative, wouldn't you say?
I think it's probably the most creative one that we had.
We definitely are. Today's show is payment processing to paying forward. And our guest extraordinaire is Justin Sandler. Before I tell you about Justin, because there's quite a bit to tell you. In fact, we're going to go into the show and we're going to have loads to talk about because this guy has got a plethora of skills and life experiences as well. Good and bad, let's say. But if you are watching this show for the first time, you can actually make comments, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook. You can make a comment below and you can join in by asking the questions. We'll bring that question onto the screen. If you're watching, let us know, say where you're watching from and if you're watching live. And of course, if you're watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay, let us know who you are, where you're watching from, etc. And we'll bring that onto the screen. If you want to hear this in podcast form, you have to wait a month or so. We'll let you know about that later on in the show. But for now, I'm going to tell you about Justin. Well, Justin is an actor. He's a filmmaker. He's an entrepreneur, payment processing entrepreneur. He's a musician and he's a cancer survivor as well. He's not just a creative, of course. He's owned a payment processing business since 2008. And his primary goal is always to be an educator. So he's learned the industry inside and out, seeing many changes over the years. And of course, recently, it's very, very important to have payment processing in place for your business. If you're online, if you're not online, if you're in store, wherever you are, it's easy to do this now. And we're going to find out a little bit about that. What makes Justin slightly different from the norm with payment processing is that his company, Chip In, also donates to charity with every transaction. And charity is something close to his heart. As a cancer survivor as well, he's wanting to inspire lots of people. And he's got a one-man show, which he does, which is called Embrace Love Free, which I believe he's turning into a book as well. Anything I haven't covered there, Adrian?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. You said musician, actor, cancer survivor, entrepreneur, or payment processor entrepreneur. But I think it's an entrepreneur on the whole side.
He's just an entrepreneur. The guy is just a creative. Let's face it. Well, without further ado, let's bring Justin onto the show. Hey, Justin.
Hello, Justin.
What's happening, Elliot? Adrian, nice to see you guys.
How you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on. You, of course, are used to crowds. How was that? How was that one in comparison to the crowds you're used to as being a musician and an actor?
I'll tell you what. A lot of my early days of playing music had a lot smaller and less forgiving crowds. So I'll take them anytime. They can come with me.
Listen, we can see you're a creative and a musician in the background, and you're in a very creative part of the world as well, aren't you? In LA. Whereabouts are you?
That's correct. I'm in the Valley of Los Angeles. I spent my first about 9 years here in Hollywood, right in the heart of it all, and now
Beautiful.
In the Valley where I have my production studio and my wife and I have a home, and definitely able to do it.
Oh, we've lost your sound. We've lost your sound. Oh,
Checky check 1 2.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
So yeah.
Where should we start that question again? You asked me where I was in the world.
No, we're renegade on this show. We just crack on. We don't care.
Copy that. Moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward, definitely. I love
from Los Angeles. That's all you got to know.
Yeah, that's it. Are you actually from Los Angeles originally?
No, I'm not. I actually was born and raised in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And spent much of my life there, but wisely made the move out to the West Coast. the weather in Chicago is unbearable. Now I live under blue skies and palm trees, and of course I'm in a great, beautiful community with lots of creatives, and I can do a whole lot more here than I could have ever done back in Chicago.
You bastard! I'm already jealous.
Come visit.
Let's hope the people of Chicago is not going to hear you, saying that about it.
Yeah.
They know it. They all know. They know what's up. They're all just afraid to move out here.
Hey, listen, I would move out there in a heartbeat. It's wet, miserable, and cold over here at the moment in the UK, as you know. As you were saying before we started recording, that you toured around the UK and Europe at this sort of time of year. Actually, a bit later than this in the year, wasn't it?
That's correct. I did a couple tours throughout Europe, 2 specific ones in the UK. Each was 3 weeks long. One was in the middle of summer, which was beautiful. I remember being up in Scotland playing a show, and I stepped out to call back home, and it was like 10:30 at night, and the sun was still out, and that was a totally new experience. But yeah, we came back with the group later on in the year, and we did 5 weeks around Europe and the UK in November and December, and again, had a good time, but the weather was horrible. So
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson on when not to go back there.
Not to come back, that's for sure. What's your passion? You're a drummer. You're a drummer. That's your main passion on the musician front, right?
As far as music goes, yeah, I mean, drums has been my longest art form. It's my first love. I've been playing since I was a little kid, but I've played several instruments growing up. I played trumpet all through school, and little dibble dabble here on the guitar and the bass. But drums has been, as a professional instrument, that's what I've done most. That's what I've recorded with. That's what I've toured as. And but as far as like other instruments, I've done a lot of appearances in TV shows and films as guitar players, as bass players, and had quite a good time just getting on stage and just looking like I knew what I was doing, but which is always fun.
Adrian, can you play any instruments?
Yeah, the keyboard and the mouse usually. That's the only instrument I can play, to be honest.
The mouse and the keyboard, right? Okay, yeah.
Well,
no, then.
I think I tried before a guitar, and it's honestly, I can get things, working, that for me. What about you, Elliot?
As a kid, I think I took up the guitar for a little while, had a few lessons. I had a keyboard, of Casio keyboard, I think. I couldn't stick it out, to be honest. I didn't have the patience, so that was a problem. I love music, but I don't have the patience to learn something, which is a shame, because I think it's a great thing to learn. You clearly have a lot of patience in this area. You've just got that creative skill in the sort of in music and music. Can you sing as well, Justin?
You know what? That's been my lifelong dream, is to be a singer, and it's not my specialty. A lot of people tell me I'm sort of like a drummer trapped in a lead singer's body. I definitely can work the stage. I got all the moves, but the voice just isn't quite there. I'm way more at home behind the drum kit. But to respond on what you were saying, it's not really patience, in my opinion. It's more passion.
Right.
And I think this is where you see it a lot of kids. The kids that especially excel, it's not necessarily that one kid may be more talented than the other. It's the passion to want to keep going back and learning and being challenged and overcoming those challenges. And the same thing with drums. I mean, I went through, really just teaching myself for most of the time and trying to learn, new things, and struggling, trying to play the John Bonham beats and then figuring them out, and, moving through, and then getting into some bands, and then getting kicked out of bands for not being good enough, and then realizing that I had to learn even more. And, it's just, if you don't have that passion, once you get kicked out of the first band, you're not going to come back again. But it was there for me. And really the passion to create and perform has just been such a burning desire my whole life. It's just something about connecting with people, entertaining people, inspiring people. And it really fulfills me knowing that I'm doing something I love while at the same time giving something in return.
Yeah, I mean, you're a performer, aren't you? I mean, obviously you act as well. You've done filmmaking, so so that whole sort of Hollywood and Los Angeles is like the perfect place for you, isn't it? Hey,
yeah, I mean, it works. I've had my bands out here, my production studios here. I'm very fortunate to have worked, in film and TV with some really amazing performers. Matthew McConaughey gave me my first role back in 2007.
Oh, really?
I've done a string of national commercials and worked with, some other really cool people. I created my own film here, wrote, directed, and starred in a film that won some awards and did the festival circuit. So it's definitely been a full, complete base of creativity and performance, and it's very fulfilling for me. I love doing it all, and it's something that I'll do for the rest of my life, because I don't really consider it work. It's really one of my greatest passions, is to perform and to connect with people.
That's a perfect situation to be in, isn't it? I mean, if
So.
it doesn't feel like work, that's great. I mean, the thing is, though, I mean, and I don't know whether this is the same for you. You've definitely got a lot of strings to your bow. Consistency in Hollywood is difficult, isn't it? I mean, you either get a role or you get some part or something like that, and there can often be gaps in between. Is that how you got into payment processing? Was it something to sort of fill those gaps, something to have a residual income while you sort of followed your passion and what you really love doing?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and on that one. And you're correct. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're new to the business or if you are an A-list celebrity. If you notice, some of the most successful, the ones that I look up to as far as performers in the business, from athletes to musicians to actors, they're all business people as well. Like take a guy like 50 Cent, right? Made a lot of money as a performer, made more money when he partnered and came up with vitamin water, right?
Yeah.
So it's about clothing lines and endorsements and other business opportunities, restaurants, and the ones who really understand that there's just so much ebb and flow even at the top level, that it's really smart. Just like any investor would have a stock portfolio, you're not going to put all your money in one hot tech company. You're going to have a diversification going, because you need to have that stability, that when one is going like this, something else is kind of moving steady. Yeah. And so, and you are correct. I mean, you get a national commercial, it's great. I mean, I've had commercial that ran for 2 years, and the residual checks are fantastic. But I didn't book another commercial over those 2 years. Yeah. I mean, there's just no rhyme or reason a lot of times for how casting works and how the industry goes, and playing in music is the same thing. Yeah. So it's always smart to have something else. And I never was really the type to have what we call out here a day job. A lot of people do that, and I certainly tried my share years ago. But I just never really was good at them, and I never had passion to keep showing up. And I was introduced to a fella back in 2008 who does payment processing. He was very successful. He had been doing it for, I think, about 20 years or so at the time, with his own office that he had owned as an independent sales office. Uh-huh. And I thought, well, this is interesting. This is something that I can do, that I don't have to necessarily go and clock in and clock out and be under someone's thumb. But I can work literally as much as I want and from wherever I want. All I need is a phone with email on it and a good connection to talk to people, plus my small office to help work together. And I literally could do this from anywhere. Yeah. So I saw this as an opportunity to not just battle the ebb and flow of the business, but to also give me the freedom and flexibility to keep doing what I love to do as a performer and as a creator. I mean, I remember like being with my band. I was on tour, and we were, I think, out in Denver. And during the day at the hotel, I was fielding calls from clients. I was handling business. I really can do it from anywhere and still give great service. So I thought it was really a perfect marriage for me to have, kind of both sides of my brain working, doing something business related that balances what I get to do creatively. And I did hold that up for a long time. But then, a couple of years ago, some things in my life changed. And there was a minute where I was actually considering leaving this industry, but this is what opens up a much bigger story, obviously.
Oh, well, we'll go into that in a second. I told you before we started recording that my mum would undoubtedly join us. Thanks very much for watching and joining us. Of course, Mum says hi, Elliot, Adrian, and guest Justin watching as usual.
Hey, Mum.
We've also got hello from Texas today. If you're coming in through the Facebook group, then it may well not be showing your name. You have to register your name. Let us know who you are. Put your name in there so we can say hi to you. And I'm not sure if this is the same person or not, but again, a Facebook user says, I understand Justin as a singer and songwriter with an album out there, and yet all the big money is coming from my business ventures. Oh, we'd like to definitely find out who you are. So let us know. Let us know who you are.
Yeah, and hello to whoever was in Texas. I've toured through that state many times. Every city in that state, over and over again. Love the people out there.
Who did you say it was, Adrian?
Jenny Walker.
Jenny Walker. Right. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for watching. You haven't registered the name, but I'm pleased it's you. Thanks very much, Jenny. Big love to you all, and thanks everybody for watching. If you want to ask Justin a question, ask us a question. If you just want to shout out, then make sure you put that in. Let us know where you're watching from. So. Listen, let's get to that change. And we can cover all sorts of subjects in this, but you've brought us very nicely to that sort of to that point in your life a couple of years.
They call me Mr. Segway.
Listen, you're well versed in this area, aren't you? So you can lead us this time. 2 years ago, massive impact in your life, something that I don't suppose you saw coming. There's a couple of big impacts, really. But tell us about that. Let me tell you about that. But how did you initially find out, and what was your reaction when you found out you did have the big C?
Right, the big C. So yeah, it was actually shocking. More than anything, it was more like disbelief and shock. I've been practicing, health and wellness and physical fitness and clean eating. I've been all plant-based since 2011.
Oh, really?
And feeling always really healthy and staying on top of my game. By the beginning of 2017, I was playing drums in 2 different bands. The film that I wrote and directed had just finished a year-long festival tour. And we were just about to start another project, and the film just got a distribution offer. So that was happening. I had a national commercial that was running quite a bit. My payment business was, moving and grooving at a pretty steady pace. On a physical level, I had started playing a flag football league for your guests over there in the UK, American football, that is. The flag football, which was a whole lot of fun, running around every week doing that. Yeah. And I joined the fitness challenge at the gym for the hell of it at the same exact time. So I was really very, very physically active, healthy, feeling good, busy. And I really was feeling that my life was about to transition. And the truth, I was feeling inside of me this readiness for the next step, that I had put all these things together and that something big was about to happen, and I was about to really break in. And I was working on all the things that were about to happen, and I was ready. I was shouting into the sky, man, I am ready. I'm ready for the next thing. Here we go. And it was really surprising to find out that next thing that I was ready for was cancer and not a big role or a big job.
Wow.
Looking back on it really, that was the big thing though, that I was ready for. And I think everything that I'd been doing in my life up till that, including my health and fitness, is really why I'm still here today to talk to you. I had a tumor that we found in my chest. I just got sick one weekend. It was like a flu, but it wasn't, with a lot of chest pain. And my doctor had the wherewithal to schedule a CT scan for me. And then next thing you know, they found that I had this very large and aggressively fast-growing mass inside of my chest. It had adhered to my right lung, my heart, the main superior vena cava vein, and a couple other nerves and other bits and pieces. It was growing so fast and so rapidly that we just didn't have time to explore other alternative options of healing. It was really pushing into my heart so fast that they thought that I could have died of some sort of heart failure within a month or two because of that.
Wow. I mean,
intensity from it.
That is rapid, isn't it? I mean, that's a serious rapid growth there.
Yeah, it's a very, very rare cancer as well. They call it a germ cell tumor. And germ cells, everyone has germ cells, and they start to do their thing when we're just little embryos. We're barely even formed as a body yet. And the germ cells travel down the embryo and park in what's called the gonad primordia. And that's where they will figure out if you're a male or female. They are the only cell that goes under the meiotic cell division. Right. And then they basically will start creating your eggs or your sperm. So the germ cells essentially become your future reproductive organs. It's, I often made the joke that I had it inside of my chest, a testicle growing. I often refer to it as my chesticle. And, all fun and aside, I had to spend some light on it, but it was essentially related to the reproductive organs, and in sort of the family of testicular cancer, but not. And that's why it was sort of just parked in the middle. One of my germ cells got stuck along the way. It parked itself against where my chest wall would form, and something woke it up. Next thing you know, this thing is just trying to do what it was supposed to do, but it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And guess what? It couldn't do that. So it just started creating a ball of mass and fast.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it, and an interesting way what you said about that you almost not at the top of your game, but what you've been doing, all of these different elements, the work, your musician, the business, and your life and the health, we're all up here. And as you said, what a great way to look at it and put in a positive twist, the fact that you were actually preparing yourself for that. I mean, if you hadn't spent those years, pushing forward and doing those things, would you have been as able to cope with it? You're never going to know, of course, but interesting point. I'd never have considered it that way.
Sure. My doctors actually, after my diagnosis, my main surgeons told me, they literally said, look, whatever you're doing and what you've been doing for your health and your diet, keep doing it because you're the healthiest guy we've seen come through here. And if anybody's going to survive this, it's you.
Wow.
So I realized that, my health, my wellness, my plant-based diet, meditation, Buddhist chanting, like all the things that I had been already doing sort of had me set up to face what was about to hit me. And that's why I always preach to people these days that don't wait for something to go wrong before you start taking care of yourself, because inevitably, things happen. They happen to everybody. No one gets out of here. No one gets out of here alive, as we say, but things will happen. And, the more prepared you are physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, the better you are going to be prepared and equipped to deal with what comes to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just like you said, probably, preparing for the next step, next big job. And I think that was, the biggest challenge that you ever had in your life, or probably the one that the biggest that you ever going to have in your life, or the biggest game, job, whatever you want to call it. That's not something that, yeah, you can deal with it very easily. I suppose you had any time to think about, like you said, anything else, and you just went with what the doctor said. But talking about taking care of your body, that's a really good one, just because, again, I think we need to realize the fact that we need to do that anytime, any day, anywhere. Doesn't really matter if we feel good, bad, or whatever we feel, just because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
I fully agree.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that's been brought up time and time again through the podcasts that we've done, through the shows that we've done. That definitely the point of looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, spiritually, mentally, physically, those three areas, and there's probably a couple of others, but those, I think, it's so very important. It's something that's been overlooked. I've overlooked it for many, many years. It's only doing these shows, and I've said this numerous times now. If people watch this regularly, they'll get bored of me saying it, but it's so very true. I think you really do need to. We all think we got to go to the gym, but we don't think about our mental health. We don't think about the spiritual side of things, which some people may class as mumbo jumbo or whatever, but it's about a belief, whether you believe in yourself, whether you believe in, whether you set goals, whatever it is that you need to have as that sort of belief mechanism. That's what we class as sort of the spiritual side, right?
Absolutely. It's just knowing how to deal with what challenges come to you, and whether that's a traditional religion, or whether that's a spiritual new age religion, or whether that's just belief in the universe and source and spirit energy. I mean, I think they're all just different names for the same thing. It's about our connection. It's our connection to ourself, our soul. It's understanding that we're part of something much bigger. It's just knowing how to tap in and turn yourself on and be open to welcome and download the positive programs, the things that will help bring you the good messages and help make you realize that your challenges are there for you to learn and overcome, and for you to also go forth and help other people. And I know when I got diagnosed, aside from the initial shock, like, how could this happen to me? And then being like, no, I don't have time for cancer. Like me, I'm like the busy, crazy, like you guys said, an entrepreneur. I'm juggling a million things. I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. I got too many things going on. But I had to really slow down and accept and embrace what was happening. And it was through that sort of meditation and the chanting that I came up with this sort of 3-step philosophy that is now called Embrace, Love, Free, which has been my biggest platform since then. It's the title of my book, and it's what my TED Talk was about. And it's all about learning how, and this is a podcast all in itself, so I won't go too deep on it, but it's just all about learning how to embrace the scenario that we're in, going through it in a space of love and high vibration, and then learning how to free it from ourselves in a peaceful manner. It takes away the F cancer and, the negative go to war with the type situation and the sort of violent solution that most people want to tell me to do. And it let me vibrate in a space of love, where I literally had a relationship with my tumor, where I would talk to it, where I would say, hey, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming into my life and teaching me this much, but it is time to go, because we both can't live and do this together. And I think living in that vibration really set me up to not only survive and thrive, but to also learn the most throughout my journey. And then seeing how this was so much bigger than just me, that I knew that I was given the opportunity to survive so that I could go out there and impact other people's lives. Wow.
You've touched me, genuinely. I mean, there's a few things you've said in there that have actually choked me a little bit, to be fair. I mean, what a humble guy you are, and to go through that and to look at it the way you're looking at it. we've actually had a couple of people on the show that have also, had dealt with cancer, but the way that you spoke about it there, and virtually embracing it and sort of in doing what you've done, it's just those words. I don't need to repeat them. Incredible, absolutely incredible. In fact, my mum, who doesn't really, doesn't admire that many people, I have to say, she says, I have great admiration for people like you.
Thanks, Mum.
Big love to you, Mum. What an incredible journey to go through, and the fact that now you use that to inspire people with the skills that you've already had, that you've had for many, many years. In fact, you're born with those acting skills, the performance skills. So getting on and doing a TED Talk must have been quite easy for you, right?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it easy, but essentially what I realized is that, as a storyteller and as a performer, this was the perfect outlet for me to go forth and share. What we were doing during the cancer journey itself is, I was doing live videos every moment that something happened, good, bad, or in the middle. Every time I was struggling with something, I'd get on and talk about it live. And I literally came up with over 100 full live videos that I had in my arsenal after I was on the other side of it. And that's when I saw that I could actually create myself a one-man show where I played a bunch of comedic characters and different narrators and stuff telling the story on stage. But then we kept cutting back and forth to the screen where I had edited down little clips of things that were actually happening during the journey. And it really gave us quite a lot of material to really tell the story from a really multifaceted and multidimensional place. Taking that and what I've done, turning it into storytelling. Now we're working on some documentary films, and then I got accepted to give the talk. Just essentially taking again all the story and just learning another way to tell it. Doing a one-man show is very theatrical. Doing like a TEDx talk is very sort of academic. So yes. It's just finding the different words, just like, being a performer and being a payment processor, it's just, they're different facets of still, getting out there. But what it's really given me is the opportunity to blend the two together, and how my book, is based on both the theatrical and the journey, but also the lesson and the academic side of what it is. So the book is sort of a like teaching memoir, self-help meets, personal story. And that really allows me to be very full circle in how I help and share the message.
Yeah, so, full circle, multifaceted. You've got it all. You've got it all going on.
There you go. Wearer of many hats.
Well, let's talk about the payment processing, because I could talk to you for a very long time on these other subjects, and I think we definitely would be love to get you back on the show at some stage, and we'll talk about the Embrace Love Free. For sure. But the on the payment processing side, there's a plethora of people out there doing this right now. I mean, it never used to be. Right. But we have people contacting us, and and there's different ways of doing it, and it can be a bit of a minefield. If you're particularly with like businesses now going online, and a lot more people wanting to take payments for courses or products or whatever they are. So, you got into this. What sort of sets you aside from the others, apart from your sort of donation on the charity side? I know you've learned a lot through the years over.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a quick backstory on the processing industry, and then I'll catch us up to right now. I think this might be beneficial for your audience to hear. Like you mentioned, there didn't used to be a lot of people doing this, and it changed. When I first got into it, it was in 2008. It was already starting to transition. Prior to that, there were not that many guys doing payment processing on an independent level, and the ones that did were making quite a bit of money. Everything back then was, there was a lot of fees that were included: sales fees, annual fees, membership fees. The rates people got were on the sort of the old platform of 3 tiers: qualified, mid-qualified, non-qualified, which you don't see too much anymore. And if someone does offer you that, run, because that basically takes all card types, which there's like 115 of them or so, and it lumps them into 3 categories and rounds up usually to the next one. So, that's really more beneficial to the person making the money than the client who's taking the credit cards. But when I got into the business, it was starting to change, and they started coming up with the new Interchange Plus program, which was more based on the true cost of each card type. And from that point, people started to come in and say, "Oh, I can beat the rate. And that's my whole business model. Has been about coming in and giving you the lowest rate possible, and whatever rate another bank or another service gives you, we'll find a way to do better. What happened is that a lot of the banks started opening up larger and larger call centers, boiler rooms, if you will. And a lot of my clients to this day even say I get 12 calls a week from different, they're literally just cold callers and people who don't care about you. They're just in a room, an office or wherever. And they're just saying, we can beat your rate, send us a statement. And, you just get these constantly, and they offer free equipment and we'll give you free this. And all those are is really just bait and switch. We've been seeing these for years. They always offer you something up the top, and then 6 months in, they raise your rates, or they sign you to some 3-year contract with ridiculous contract breakage fees, way more than you'd get on like a cell phone contract.
Uh-huh.
And so the industry got a little dirty. It didn't feel quite so good to me anymore. And while I kept doing it and I was saving my clients money and always offering the best services possible, when I went through cancer, I had to stop working completely, and I let my office sort of pick up the slack for me. I was considering leaving the business before coming back because it was about the hustle and the money, and I was not all about the hustle and the money anymore.
Sure.
But something was happening at the same time. My partner, Greg, who now has been in this business for over 30 years, he started a pilot program with one of his largest clients, and they involved a charity with it. And that was a charity involved in a school system, raising money for these school programs in this community. And, they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over a few years, and by donating a piece of the profits every single month directly to that charity. And he started telling me about this new program. It's called Chip In, and it's literally an umbrella that we're doing under our big processing, where we process independently. We're Card Connect, part of First Data. It's actually the largest in the world. But Chip In is just our little office, and we what we do now is we arrange charity relationships with different nonprofits, and our clients choose the one they want us to donate for them to. And then every month we take a percentage off the top and we donate directly to that charity before we see a dollar for ourselves. And our client gets to support a charity without even coming out of their own pocket. So it really is a win-win-win for everybody. And so as I started coming back to the business and realized, well, I can do this now. I can still help save money for clients. I can still offer my great services. But now we've got this little added bonus of getting to donate to charity and really make a difference. So it really was the one thing, because I had the passion now to come back. And my greatest passions are in cancer charities and in animal charities as a long-time, plant-based person. So I really love to help out in those specific areas. Now I still do the deal is we'll beat your prices. I mean, that's where we operate. A lot of clients are still, trying to get their businesses by, pulling the fast, here's the free equipment, and, the other type of bait and switch, or just calling up all day long, we'll beat your rates, but they're not offering anything else. You get signed up with a company like that, and next thing you know, you have an issue, and now you got to call, the 800 number, and you're going to wait on hold and talk to somebody in another country. And there's no personal care. What we offer is personal relationships. So, my clients have my mobile number. I get sometimes I have a couple of clients that are restaurants or hotels that'll have an issue happen on a Saturday night, and they're dinging me up on my cell phone. And as long as I'm available, I'll make the time to step in and help, or make a call to support with them, just to make sure that we're really there to guide our clients in a totally different way. So it's really, you get the full service when you work with us. And because I'm so mobile, I can really help a client from anywhere in the world when something happens.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this isn't just the payment terminals, though, right? I mean, do you do the sort of processing for websites or payment processing, platforms and things like that for Shopify or e-commerce as well? Do you have?
Yes.
Do you do that as well? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really all encompassing. It's anything regarding taking a credit card, which has grown to be massive these days. I mean, of course, the in-store terminals, the POS machines for restaurants. One thing that we do at our office is we never charge any sort of commission on equipment, because it can get expensive sometimes. So we pass it on for our wholesale cost, get people set up, and they're off and running with their processing, or with a mobile service for their phone, or portable machines. We have, things that'll connect to their own Wi-Fi or their own, signal wherever you are to take a mobile processing. But
Sure.
The biggest thing we've seen over the last, 10 years has been e-commerce. Which you're referring to, and that's the ability to take payments online, whether through a virtual terminal that you as a business will open up and just key in, or whether it's attached to your website or one of your many platforms. And so e-commerce is a big business for me as well. And now more than ever, whether you're online or in store, a lot of companies are not taking cash due to the current world state, or people are using cash less. So having the right credit card setup is more important than ever. There's some things you have to look out for online, though. You mentioned like Shopify. There are certain, there are definitely, I mean, and this is a big topic to go into, but Shopify is a company that, and nothing against them, but they're sort of a double dipper. And what I say is that they charge you a monthly fee to use their services, to put your products there. And then they also act as a payment processor. And if you want to use an outside processor who may be offering you a better price, that Shopify will charge you a surcharge of like 1% or 1.5%.
Right.
In addition, because they're trying to deter you from doing that, so that means they're getting to really take money on both sides of the coin. That doesn't really give you, as the business owner, the freedom and the options to go out there and find the best company for your business. So there are ways around it. I do have one client that is using Shopify, but found a sort of loophole to still work with me. But most of the time, we offer so many different shopping carts. Some are free, some you pay for depending on what you want to have as far as the features go. But I always offer a free gateway. So every time you set up a credit card account and you're doing it online, you get what's called a gateway. And that gateway can be used as a virtual terminal, or that gateway can attach to the shopping cart on your website to accept the payment processing securely.
No, you mean a payment gateway, no? Just for people. A payment gateway. That's what I mean.
Gateway. And essentially the gateway is like sort of that secured virtual tunnel that transports the information back and forth. You have a lot of components in processing. You've got the sales office, you've got the payment processor, and you've got the gateway, which we have our own in-house gateway we can offer for free. But there are so many movable parts with credit cards these days that it can get really confusing, especially when it comes to, where's all the money going? Like people will see their end of the month statement and be like, oh, I paid all this in fees. How are you taking so much money from me? And the thing is, like, as the processor, we're actually getting the least amount of anybody, and we're doing all the work, So it's really interesting. And then you mix in like Square and PayPal and, Stripe and all the processors that have come out in the last, 5 to 10 years. And they seem very convenient because they are. You can sign up for an account without doing too heavy of an application. They don't have some of the same PCI compliance fees that a regular processor has to charge. But what they all do is charge what's called flat rate pricing. And a lot of times it's between 2.75%, 3.25%. QuickBooks charges 3.4%. So you're going to be paying between 2.75 and 3.5 on every transaction flat. Wow. And that plus a 20 to 30 cent transaction fee. If you're a small business, you're making little designs or bracelets or whatever your craft is, and you're selling them, and you're selling $500,000 a month, $2,000 at most. Use one of those services because it's just going to be easier for a small business. But once you get to like the $3,000-$4,000 monthly volume amount, this is when it makes more sense to go with the traditional processor, because this is where sort of the breaking point happens. You're going to do better for yourself working with a traditional processor and interchange plus pricing than you are with a flat rate. I'll give you a perfect example. So everything comes through what's called the interchange, and the interchange is all the different card types, from all the debit cards to all the airline rewards and hotel rewards cards and everything in between. And everything falls on this interchange at a certain percentage price. There's around 115 different card types, and twice a year the card industry adjusts these. Some go up, some go down. But bottom line is, you're looking at 115 different possible prices between 0.05 and 3 point something. And where does that fall, and how does that get rounded up? Well, if someone uses a debit card, the true cost on the interchange for any debit card, based on what was called the Durbin Amendment that came out a few years ago, is 0.05%. That's literally 5 basis points, 5/100th.
Wow.
So if you charge a flat rate of, say, 3%, and someone uses a debit card, the processor is making 295 basis points on that transaction.
Wow.
That's a massive ripoff to somebody who's taking a lot of debit cards.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting raked. So with an Interchange Plus program, let's say working with a small business doing $5,000 a month, and we have them on a deal where we call it Interchange Plus 20, which is 20 basis points or 0.20. That means on a 5 basis point debit card, you'll only pay 25 basis points max to accept that credit card versus 3%, 300. So, you think about how many times more you're paying to use a flat rate processor, you really see why the flat rate services, while convenient, can cost your company a whole lot more money.
Yeah.
So that's why the interchange, we base it on the true cost of every card, the small percentage that we do based on how much volume your company does will be what we charge. And that way it's very fair. It's very transparent pricing that we offer people with a small transaction fee, and then just a couple of monthly charters that we're required to do because of the PCI compliance, which is all about today's security and fraud and theft identity.
Yeah.
So that's where we land with that.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I didn't realize there was such a huge difference. And as you said, for somebody that's making product or doing bits and pieces and doing a few bits and pieces, is it a massive impact? No, it's convenience. As you said,
exactly.
I mean, Adrian, you've obviously got some decent sized e-commerce clients. What are they using?
Well, to be honest, one of them has a custom-built website. I'm not sure exactly what he uses, but he transitions. I think he's almost like $6-8 million per year in terms of fees, and that's why I was even actually thinking
fees.
No, in fees I have no idea. I just mean
sales, I'll tell you, I'd be happy with business taking fees of $6-7 million a year.
Right.
I don't know exactly, so I don't know how much does he pays in fees and that, because I cannot see that data. But for everyone else, they were just using Shopify, and none of them looked at any other things. To be honest, they just stay with Shopify. Probably that was the reason. Just like Justin was saying, the fact that they penalize you if you try to move into a different platform.
Yeah. They make it easy too, and that's why it's attractive to a lot of small businesses. But like I said, you're gonna pay more in the end by using that. If you've built your own website, if you have the knowledge and how to sort of, put a basic shopping cart and checkout page together and connect it with a free terminal, then you're going to actually do way better financially. And at the end of the day, I mean, we want the bottom dollar. So, that's really the place to go. I mean, we sometimes want to go to the bigger name boxes than the small guys for whatever reason. It's in our brains that we're going to get a better deal. Costco is a great example. Costco is a massive company, and they're known to be cheaper for everything. And so people say Costco has their own payment processing division. So let me go to Costco and use them instead. But guess what? They're not a processor. They're just a sales office. Yeah. They use a processor that's a company called Elevon that's backed by US Bank. So they're literally just another sales office. They're just
piggybacking off the back of it, right? They're just another middleman.
That's right? It. And a lot of if you walk into Bank of America merchant services, like guess what? Bank of America doesn't have their own processor either. They use my processor, First Data. So you go to B of A merchant services, all they're going to do is be the middleman, just like I would be. But you're paying their sales office a fee versus just going with someone who's going to take care of you directly. And I'd love to segue into how processing fees work, because this is sort of something that I thought was really an unbelievable factor on really breaking down where the money goes. I mean, as a consumer, whether you're online, you just put your credit card in, you hit the button, and literally like in a flash of a beat, you've got an approval and you've purchased your item, and yay, it's all happy and it's great. But in that little flash of a beat, what really happens? And so, essentially our gateway is grabbing that information, it's throwing it to the processor. The processor is taking the transaction, it's checking with the credit card company, making sure that the money is available, putting a hold on it, sending back an approval, saying there's money there, we've put a ding, we put a hold, send them a number, and then you get the approval. And that all happens within a split second. Yeah. And that's it. It's amazing how fast this, I mean, in the old days of credit card processing, you had to get on the phone, call up, give the number, give the amount, run the knuckle buster over a card. I mean, cards don't even have those anymore. You can't even do that. Yeah. And then when that happens, and then you as a company get that month-end merchant statement, and you're going through it, and you're like, well, what is all these fees? What does this all mean? Why am I being charged that? Well, like, here's what happens. Number one, you run a credit card. That percentage I was talking about on the interchange, those are where the money goes to the actual banks that issue the credit card. You have a Bank of America debit card. You have a Citibank American Airlines card. Whoever the bank is that is on the name of that credit card, they get the biggest piece of the puzzle. So, if they're charging 2.5% for an airline card, that 2.5% is going right to Citibank or whoever issued that particular credit card. That's a big amount of income that they're picking up on. Yeah. So you're about to say something.
They used to have, they used to charge the user as well, didn't they? So let's say, they cut the customer. They used to be charging the customer. That's not so much now. It's mainly passed on to the company, the business now, isn't it?
That's right. Everything is passed on to the business.
Charges now on cards, do you?
Some of the higher point value cards might have like an annual membership fee.
Yeah.
But there are no fees. I mean, if anything, they were trying to encourage you to use them more and more and more,
And more
because
so now they've
they're
definitely
making money.
quashed a lot of that limiting, payments. I don't know what it's like in the States, but we've got like up to 45 pounds that we can now do without you just touching the card.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it wasn't so many years ago though that there would be maybe a percent, or you go into a shop, and if you don't spend so much, they're going to charge you a particular percent on your purchases. But of course, that the fact that they want virtually a paper money free world, I suppose, is the way that things are going to be going.
That's another conversation too.
Say again.
That's another conversation for another day too.
Yeah. We'll have a whole show based on that one, which we'll probably suddenly go off air. To be fair,
yeah, we'll just all disappear.
But yeah, so you don't really get those charges now. It is passed on to the businesses and things, but they still got to soak those costs up. So it's important if you have even if you've got a smaller business and you're maybe only doing 10, 20, 30, 40,000 pound turnover a month, that you can keep your prices keener if you have got a better provider of the monetary service like yours, I would have thought.
For sure. The way it is now, everything is passed on to the business owner. You want to get all the airlines points and hotel points. You think that you're getting this great advantage, but the business owner is actually paying those points for you through the percentage. So you're not really, if you love your business that you're going to and you want to help them out, use your debit card, not your airlines card, just because you're going to save them money. But yeah, that's all passed on to the business owner. The credit card companies are making more, or the banks rather, are making more than they've ever made on credit cards. That's why there's so many incentives, there's so many offers, do this, do that. They want to incentivize you to use your card as much as possible. And then it's also why you see commercials constantly from like Visa and MasterCard and the brands Discover, because they all have their hands out too. I mean, MasterCard and Visa and Discover as well, they each take 0.11% of every transaction as well. So they've got their hand out. So you're before the processor sees $1, the issuing bank of the credit card takes a big cut. Visa, MasterCard, Discover takes a cut. American Express has always been sort of their own monster, but the way pricing has gone now, the American Express is really more evenly priced. So there's no really need to not take them like people in the old days, because they always paid the best rewards. They were known for being the best rewards for their clients, but they're pretty even with the point rewards cards now from Visa, MasterCard, etc. So all those fees happen, and then the very end, who does all the work and who gives the money, a lead up front to our businesses, that's the processor, and we're the ones where we cut the lean deals, and that's really the only place there is for wiggle room. Like, you can't change Visa's fee, you can't change the bank's fee. You can only go with the processor costs, and there's some elements we have to work in as well, because the processor and we all have to be part of this world as well. So the idea is, how do you shop and find the best processor for your needs? And a couple of advice things there is, number one, look at the fees. Really, the only fees, and other processors out there might hate me for saying this, but I'm going to expose you right now. The only fees that we really have to charge, is a monthly, what's called a PCI compliance fee, which is all about just protecting, and it's almost like a mandatory insurance to make sure that if any fraud or identity theft happens, that we're covered for it. But that's typically about $9.95 a month. And then there's usually a small monthly fee or a statement fee that might be $5 or $10 a month. Outside of that, $20 a month really should be the most you pay in any sort of fees monthly to a processor. If you're getting hit with a membership fee, an annual fee, a monthly minimum fee, where basically they're saying if you don't process a certain dollar amount every month, they're going to round it up and make you pay this minimum to keep with them. Those are all padded fees that the processors are making off of you, and they're not necessary. And in my opinion, to give someone the best rate and the best deal, like you promise, you don't charge them the fees. Equipment as well, what are the wholesale costs? That's why we turn around and everything that we get equipment-wise, we sell it wholesale directly to our clients. Our goal is to get them up and processing, not try to make some money off the top, and gouging on equipment. So ideally you want to watch those fees, and you want to also look at the contract you're signing. What we do now is we've literally took away any sort of term length or any sort of penalty for our clients, because we feel that if you are not happy with the services for whatever reason, sure, we would appreciate you let us try to make it right. But at the end of the day, if you're not happy, we're not going to hold you to this contract and not let you go to another processor. A lot of processors do that, or they'll offer you some free equipment off the top, and make you sign on it. But here's the deal, like, you sign a 3-year contract on your cell phone and you break the contract, you're going to pay several $100s, right? Yeah. If you break a contract with a credit card processor, they charge you a percentage based on the volume that you're doing for the remaining time you're on contract. So it can be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, really deterring you from leaving if you really are not happy somewhere, or you end up paying really out the rear trying to break your contract. And that's really just, it's not fair, I feel, in today's world, especially with so much competition. Give the best service, give the best prices, do what you're going to say you're going to do. And if you've done all those things and your client still wants to go somewhere else, then let them do that. I mean, treat them as if you wanted to be treated by somebody else. Yeah. And I think really in this sort of industry that can be a little dirty, that can feel a little not so comfortable because of all the different components and all the different money going through, I'm trying to make it a little more palatable by offering, clean, transparent, better service, by offering a charitable twist and really make it all seem more worthwhile. And to really know that my goal is to educate my clients and to teach them how this works and to guide them through making the best choices, and then just be there with them to help grow their businesses and be part of it. And that's really a great reward for me. And, one of my current clients is a restaurant chain that started up not too long ago, and we're growing together. We just opened their 5th location, and they're all vegan restaurant, and we're donating to animal charities. And I'm really, part of the team and growing with them. And it's been really special to see their success and to also see the difference that we can make through the donations to the different charities. So it really comes full circle. And that, therefore, as someone on this side of cancer, I can still have passion for an industry that I almost left behind, and incorporate it with everything else that I'm still doing in the world of entertainment.
Well, that's a perfect client. That is the perfect client for you, isn't it?
That is, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Something, Justin. Now, talking a bit about the consumer, let's say, experience and stuff like that. For example, I'll just say in the online world, PayPal is very well known as a payment processor, just because people have this conception that you have protection. And see, here in Europe, I'm not sure if that many people are using their credit cards. I think they mostly use the debit cards. I certainly use my debit card most of the time, not my credit one. And you have a sort of protection from PayPal if something goes wrong, especially if you buy from eBay and stuff like that. They kind of hold the money, and they always take the side of the buyer.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, or how can you offer the same level of confidence? Or
yeah, it's a great point you bring up, and it's also a very common misconception. A lot of people love PayPal for that reason, but a lot of people also don't like using PayPal for many other reasons. As a business owner, it's not cheap to use PayPal. You're paying flat rate pricing and high transaction fees, and you're dealing with an aggregator, which is all PayPal is an aggregator, just like a lot of these other companies. So the debit card situation, and it depends on your bank. So I'm going to only advise with the debit card to look at your bank's rules and regulations on a particular card. Because some debit cards and some banks may treat it differently. However, with credit card transactions, in which debit card transactions are being treated like credit card transactions, so it really should fall under the same guidelines. As a consumer, if you make a credit card transaction and you don't get your product, or it's not what you were promised, or something went wrong, you have literally 6 full months to file a chargeback. And that's why every payment processor looks at a client based on a window of 6 months out, knowing that even if a client goes out of business in January, their customers in June could file chargebacks, and you're on the hook for it because the client disappeared and closed their bank account. So that's why underwriting is the way it is. But as a consumer, that if you make a charge today and the product comes and it's not what they promised or advertised on the website, for example, and you reach out to them and say, this isn't what I wanted, and they refuse to honor a refund or an exchange, you just call your credit card company and say, I'd like to do a chargeback on this particular charge. And what's interesting is you mentioned that PayPal sides with the consumer. 90% of the time that a consumer files a chargeback, the credit card company is going to side with the consumer as well. Most of the time, they just don't want to deal with it. It just opens up another big investigation into something that doesn't really make sense to use their time to do. Of course, every business owner is given the opportunity to file a rebuttal against it and explain why some business owners are, like my client was wrongfully filed against with a chargeback. Someone picked up food items and then they said, we never, we didn't buy this. What they did, they signed the credit card. So there's a situation where, they were trying to commit fraud essentially, and they got caught. But you order something online and it comes and it's broken, or it's missing, or it's just, not what was in the picture. And they're like, no, you bought it, you keep it. Well, okay, I'm going to call B of A or Citibank or whoever the credit card company is. I'm going to ask to file a chargeback. They can on the other side rebut it all they want, but most of the time they're going to lose. And so then that you have purchase protection through your credit card issuer. So that's really important to know, that as a consumer, you always have up to 6 full months to file any sort of chargeback. Now, most debit cards are treated like credit cards, so you should have the same ability. But again, I would check with the bank who issued your credit card, or your debit card rather, to make sure that's true. The only difference usually on a debit card versus a credit card is that it might take longer to get that money returned to you, because debit cards pull the money out right away, whereas a credit card, it works more in the credit back end. But again, check with your issuing debit card bank to make sure that that's the rules. But know as a consumer that you really are protected in your purchases. And now more than ever, just like the credit card companies are really trying to get more people to use their credit cards, they're offering more and more protection. For example, American Express, I have a particular card now that is offered me insurance on my cell phones if I pay my monthly bill with my Amex card. So I was able to, cut the iPhone insurance and not pay that $18-19 a month in that because I'm already protected. So, there's always things to look for, and make sure you take advantage of all the offers that you do have at the credit cards.
Yeah, I think it's a good point actually, because there's often with most cards, most bank accounts, most standard accounts that don't even have overdraft facilities and things like that usually have some benefits, and it's definitely worth checking those. And often now you do have the insurances for mobile phones. Potentially one, potentially even 2 replacements a year as well, which I definitely have on my NatWest account as well.
For sure.
It's a good point to check that out. Absolutely advise everybody to look at that, because you may get travel insurance. There's usually 4 or 5 standard points that you tend to get with bank accounts and credit cards as well. So check those out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
And today, especially now more than ever, because so much is happening through e-commerce platforms, we have the fraud that happens. And that's just because banks are aware of that. They're doing everything they can. That's why every client has to do a PCI test every year, and the PCI fees. And we're trying to make sure that it doesn't happen, but there are times when it does. And knowing that is something that's happening more than ever, there are additional protections that you have. A lot of your credit cards will say, you're not on the hook for if someone steals your information and makes a charge. They don't put you on the hook for that like they did in the old days. So they are adapting with the times, and they are giving people the benefit of the doubt, so that if something does happen, that you're traveling and your information is stolen, you definitely have that protection from the credit card company.
Definitely. Well, listen, we've definitely covered some subjects this evening, I had an eclectic day. We've definitely had an eclectic guest on for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
We have an eclectic show, I think, as well. So eclecticism is definitely going to be the thing, if that's even a thing. I have no idea, but it is now.
It is now.
Where can everybody find you, Justin? I mean, because you've got a few places that people can find you for different reasons, and we're going to drop some links in. Or I say we, this is the royal we. Adrian will drop the links in because he's very good at doing that.
Thank you, Adrian.
Where can people find you, my friend?
Sure. There's of course, in this day and age, there's a million places to find everybody. So I'll start with for the social media savvy out there. The really easy way to find me is with the handle @JustinSandler. Very simple. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @JustinSandler is going to get you to me on the socials. My personal website is justinsandler.com. Again, I make it real easy. And you can learn all about what I do, and my show and my book and my entertainment career and everything I do. You can sign up for my newsletter there, or you can send me a direct email. More specifically, in the payment processing world, if you'd like to learn a little more about what we're doing, the website is chip-in.org. And my personal email address, if you're a business owner and want to ask some questions, is justin@chip-in.org.
Perfect.
As long as you know my name, Justin Sandler, you should be able to find me somewhere. Drop me a line if you have questions. If you're a business owner, if I can help you in any way or support you in any way, please don't hesitate to drop a line. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. And I'd love to connect with some of you guys out there.
Great stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Adrian,
Thank you for having me.
Adrian, is there anything else that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, actually, I want to ask, Justin, how do you see the cryptocurrency and the payment processing industry going?
Again, this is a topic that is probably a whole podcast and then some. The truth of the matter is I don't know what the future holds as far as digital currency, cryptocurrency and stuff. But as far as the credit cards go, I don't think it's going to change much. I think you're essentially you're working off of your money and your credit. So you're going to still use your credit cards, and whether you're paying it every month with your checking account or whether you're paying it with your crypto account, it's still going to probably run the same. So far, we've not been told anything differently, and there's no reason to believe that credit card processing from our perspective is going to be any different than what it is now. Excuse me, guys.
No problem. Well, I think what we maybe do is it's an interesting subject. We don't cover finances and the money side of things very often. We tend to get quite a lot of coaches on and helping people to pivot in those ways. It's definitely a subject matter that I would like to explore a little bit more and understand and talk about. So if you would do, we'd love to get you back on the show at another stage with maybe another guest that's slightly different, and we can maybe cover some of those areas and talk about that. We think it'd be quite interesting.
Be an honor and a pleasure to come back and join you guys. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, if we have any e-commerce, guest that has an e-commerce shop, I think they will have plenty of questions in order to understand how they can improve things.
For sure. There's always ways to do it better. There's always ways to save more money. No, don't stop trying just because you're a business owner. A lot of times, as a creative type or a business owner, you're trying to work on your product or whatever it is that you're doing, but you really have to stop. You have to look at what you're doing on the payment processing side. It's amazing how many people with businesses don't look at their monthly statements. You've got to look at those statements every single month. You get one, whether it's emailed or whether it's sent to you in the mail. Read your statement, because you're gonna find where sometimes maybe they've snuck a fee in that's not supposed to be there, or on the very front page of every statement they will let you know if there's changes coming up. Be aware that every processor in the world has the right to raise your rates every 6 months. And they can do that over the head of the salesperson. What the good news is that we are alerted to the fact that the rates may be changing, and we put in a blanket request to maintain all of our clients at the same rate, because we promise to never raise rates. But most people won't do something like that, because look, a higher rate from the processor means a higher rate to the salesperson. And so you want to look at that front page, and if it says that your rates are going up in the next month, call your processor, call your rep and say, hey, I see that my rates are going up. Please make sure that they stay the same. Otherwise, I have people that tell me, oh, I had no idea my rates went up, and they went up. And then when I went from paying cost and plus 20 to cost plus 60, I'm like, well, you've got to look at your statements. I know it's not what you want to look at every month, but you've got to read the statements. Treat that part of your business as important as the products and the merchandise they're selling.
Definitely. Well, it's a great point to end on. To be honest, it's definitely something that needs to be kept on. And as you're right, there's a lot of creatives. I definitely fall foul of this. It's an area that I don't concentrate on enough and don't look at. You sort of those things that you go, oh yeah, I'll come to it, because maybe you're not the best with just looking at numbers, and I'm definitely not. It's a very good point. Oh, listen, thanks very much, Justin. We've really enjoyed getting you on the show this evening. What have you taken from this evening, Adrian?
The main thing that I took, we're gonna go back to Justin, talking about the experience that he's been through, and again, just like we said last night, gratitude. Again, more and more, gratitude comes, I think, in every show when we have good quality guests, and we need to embrace it more and think about that way more than before. And second is just what Justin said now, a minute ago, 2 minutes ago, as a business owner, never stop looking for better things, right? Or never stop looking to improve your business from all aspects, not just one or two.
Definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt. Well, listen, Justin, thank you very much. We look forward to getting you back on the show at some stage in the near future. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon. What time is it there in LA at the moment?
Yeah, we're just hitting noon right now, just a little after 12.
You are. Well,
got the whole day ahead of me here.
I shall be speaking to a very good friend of mine who's not a million miles away from you. Actually, he lives fairly close to you. He's a little bit further north, up in the hills, but he's not far from you. In fact, I may even put you two in contact because he does music producing, podcasting, and bits and pieces in over there as well. So we'll have a chat about that after the show. But very much for joining us from LA. If you want to know more about Justin, we've put some links in. I say we. Adrian has put some links in, so check those out on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter as well. Click on those and check Justin out. He is such an interesting guy. We have one of the most interesting guests with, as I said, very, very eclectic areas that we've covered this evening. And if you want to know more about what we've got going on Essex Business Radio and the shows coming up, then keep an eye out on our social media, which is Essex Business Radio, apart from Twitter, which is Essex Biz, BIZZ Radio. And if you want to know what's going on with our audio podcasts, then I am just in the throes of sorting out getting these produced. So they will be going up very, very soon. I know I've been saying this for the last 6 weeks, but we have got many shows that we're going to be putting up as audio podcasts, and we have them reproduced as video podcasts, which are going to be going onto YouTube as well. So you're going to get another stab at seeing Justin or hearing Justin if you're out for your morning run in about a month or so. When that happens, of course, we're letting you know, Justin, and you'll stick that through your social for us as well, won't you?
Is that one? Yes, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Be more than happy to share. This has been an honor and a pleasure. We'll share it with my folks out here, and Adrian and Elliot, once again, thank you so much for having me on today.
Big love to you. Thank you very much indeed. All right. Well, listen, we're going to sign off for now. It's been a great show. Really enjoyed it. A big love to our guests. Big love to you, Adrian. And thanks very much for watching. We are back tomorrow at 7 p.m. So make sure you tune in then. Big love to you all. And we're going to say ciao for now.
Brown cow.